Hello there. So I received an email this morning, and it's from someone in America, and it's about what's been happening in the UK of late. And it's only a few days ago, and it's to do with the death of the Queen. I didn't know I'd make a film about this, and it's quite a problematical film for me to make, and you'll understand why as this goes on. So there we are, Thursday. Definitely feeling very strange all day and have no reason for these feelings I'm getting. And I don't tune into the mainstream media on a regular basis, so most of my information comes from other sources, and a lot comes from word of mouth, personal contact. But it was a rare occasion because I actually felt like I needed to just see, is there anything going on in the mainstream? And I picked up that the Queen was ill, and it sounded like it was nothing minor, and just sat with it. And then having a phone call that evening with a good friend, she told me that she had indeed died at 6:32 p.m. British Summer Time on the Thursday. And being an astrologer, date of birth, date and time of birth and death, all incredibly important, so I was interested to know that. And all I can do really, by way of getting any kind of clarification about what I think is a really difficult thing to talk about, is I can contrast this with how I felt when I heard about the death of Princess Diana. And that was an entirely different experience. At that point I was living in a caravan on 225 acres of land in the middle of nowhere, and I must have heard about it on the radio, I can only imagine. I was not much of a radio listener, so that's a bit of a surprise, but I must have done. And I can remember very clearly how I instantly felt a great upwelling and outpouring of grief, and I remember crying. And I was living on my own at that point in a small caravan under a barn in a huge tract of land in a community with 11 adults and 7 children. So that's what I was doing when it happened, and I was simply on my own, just relaxing in the evening. And then that's when the news came through, and it was like a really big shock, and I instantly felt a connection to everyone else in the country who was obviously feeling shock, but also a lot more. It really was grief. And at the time we had no idea, but as time went on, as the years went by, it became more and more obvious that she didn't die an accidental death, and she didn't die a natural death. Something really dodgy was going on here. And of course, let's remember, really young woman, and very much loved by everyone. And I contrast that with the Queen dying. Now the mainstream will give you a really clear opinion. They'll tell you exactly what you're meant to think. Very, very clear. So that's one view. And then there's a whole host of other views too. And I go back to this place which I've been for a long time now, which is that how do I know? And what do I know? And where are my sources? Where do I get my information from? And this ties into something else as well, which is, what do I remember? You know, about whichever person it might happen to be. In this case, I'm talking about the Queen. What do I remember about the Queen? Well, I'm one of these people that has seen the Queen in the flesh. I was a child, a very young child actually, and I went to a woman's house at the end of my street with my mother. We went upstairs, we looked out of a bedroom window, we saw this car drive past, and that was the Queen. Took all of about 1 second. So it's funny, but that's the nearest I ever got, so there's that. And then there's David Icke. What do we make of David Icke? What do you make of David Icke? Now, I saw David Icke in Green Party Conference a really long time ago in the 1990s. I saw the Queen in the 1960s, very early, I think it was. Don't really know, to be honest. But yeah, so David Icke in the Green Party Conference in the 1990s, and what he had to say was completely off the wall, very disturbing, shocking, and it left me with a right, what do I make of all this then? Now, he was very much a figure of fun at one time. People ridiculed him. In fact, he's an extraordinary person because he's experienced more public ridicule, opprobrium and shaming than you'd have to go very far to find any other human being on the planet that has experienced so much what people call disrespect. And it came through the mainstream media, through the public, through him walking down the street day to day. It went on for years and years and years. And most people totally disregard everything he said, but what's been happening in the last 10 years, and even more so in the last 5 years, is that so many of the things he's talked about have come true. And this is not just talking about conspiracy theories, as people like to call them. This is talking about the mainstream. So many of his predictions have come out on the mainstream and have been regarded to be fact. He had a lot to say about the Queen. If you're interested, just go and do your own research. David Icke, the Queen. What's all that about? So, the place I come to with the Queen is I feel a sense of profound confusion because there's the mainstream narrative, which is now very, very strong. And I almost feel like suggesting it would be an unwise thing to do to challenge that too forcefully. And on the other hand, there's all the other views. Just driving through some smoke here, it's a bit surprising. And it takes me to this place, which is, I feel when it comes to people like this, people as well known as and as famous as the Queen, it's really up to you to make your own mind up, do your own research, come to your own conclusions. And in a sense, I feel somewhat schizophrenic about this because I've got the ability to empathise with this person's death, and I've got the ability to tune into how the vast majority of people are feeling at the moment. But I've also got the ability to take on a radically different view and opinion. And there was some information I came across last year which I found very distressing about things that are supposed to be going on in Windsor Castle. It's like, how do I take all that on board? How do I feel about that? But I always bring it back to this point. What I know is what I experience in my life. I know the roads of Somerset because I drive them. I know the town of Glastonbury because I speak to people, I go there, I attend events, I listen, I open myself up. And I know a lot of things from a shamanic perspective because I tune in my shamanic senses. So, totally different subject. When Barack Obama was elected president, I will speak about what happened in the UK. In the UK, there was a total hysteria, and people were delirious with joy that this man was now the president of the United States. And I was with a family, and they were all really hysterical with joy. And I was looking at the image of the guy on the screen, And I particularly paid attention whenever he smiled, which he did rather a lot of. And whenever he smiled, I felt very uneasy indeed. I couldn't understand why I felt that uneasy. There was something that didn't feel right here. That's what I could say. No question whatsoever. And then we have another subject, which is links. How do we deal with all these links? Like the link between Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. And then how do we deal with the link? And we go straight to the mainstream, and we look on the mainstream of Netflix and Jimmy Savile. It's up there, documentary, Jimmy Savile. If you watch that documentary, you discover he's got friends in very high places indeed. How does that relate? So, I guess what I'm primarily doing with regard to the end of the reign of the Queen, which has been pretty much my entire life. No, it has been my entire life actually, yeah. She was the Queen when I was born. Little detail I remember. Memory. I keep bringing this subject of memory up because I feel it's very important. So we know what we experience. We've got our abilities of our senses about things. I think it's worth paying attention to anything that you feel profoundly uncomfortable, a strong sense of disquiet, uneasiness, like I definitely did feel with Mr. Obama. Something wasn't right there. And then we've got the whole situation with the royal family, what's going on there. That famous prince whose name I mentioned. And then we've got Jimmy Savile and his very strong connections to people in very high places. So my feeling about all this is do your own research, draw your own conclusions. And I guess as a resident of the UK, what I'll be doing is watching very closely how things unfold. I feel that's really what it comes down to. And we have a new king, and his name is King Charles III, and that really, it just feels very strange to say that. And it only happened a few days ago as well. This is only like, 4 days ago? Less than 4 days ago. Takes time to process big changes. So I guess what's one of the things I will be doing is I'll be processing all these changes. So that's all I feel I want to say on that subject. All the love to you.